everyone, it's JoJo from Mojo Jojo Plans, and today we are doing a DIY. We're going to attempt to change the appearance of this deluxe cover. So if you didn't know, Joann's got a ton of the deluxe covers in, and they were running a promotion for a while, you know, buy a 2021 planner, get a cover for free, but people were able to also buy the deluxe cover by themselves for $1.99, and what an amazing deal that was. However, they only come in a couple of colors. The colors I got was a green, a white, and a yellow, and then there was also a pink and a gold one. Those were the only colors I saw that were on sale. I wasn't really seeing like the really pretty blue that they actually have, and so some of them, you know, weren't available, and it kind of just depended on your store. But I did grab a couple of each color because I wanted to see if I could do an experiment to change the appearance of them. Like some of these, like for instance the green one, I absolutely love because it has polka dots on the inside, so it is super cute. So I wanted to keep the polka dots, but I thought, how fun would it be if I didn't have to keep this green? Obviously I want to keep one of mine green, just because I think it's a fun color, but I also love Holo and everything Holo. And when I was at Joann's looking in the fabric, I found this super awesome, like pleather feeling holographic fabric. It's really like, it's a sturdy, it's thick. I don't know if you could see how thick it is, but I was like, oh my gosh, what if I somehow was able to wrap this around a deluxe cover and customize my cover so that I can have a Holo cover. Now, I do own the holographic cover that Happy Planner did come out with a couple years ago, but the downside of this, I don't know if you can see all these little scratches. The fabric that they use is just super unforgiving to any wear and tear, and it just kind of gets really... it gets scratched up, so I end up not using this as much because out of fear that it's going to get all messed up. Whereas this fabric, I can scratch it, I can do whatever I want, and it doesn't get scuffed up, which is amazing. And on the inside of this one, it has the stripes. So I just thought it'd be fun, especially if you weren't able to get a hold of this holographic cover. You know, this could be a way, if I can figure this out, this could be a fun way to customize your cover to whatever you want. Now, I found this in the specialty fabric, which means it was over on those gigantic long rolls of fabric. They weren't with like the normal fabric where you would find, you know, the like the fleece and the thinner sheet paper. This was over on those, like where you find like the fabric that's for drapes and you know, and carpet. It was over there, so that's where I found it. They also had like a mermaid with like, you know, like the blue, pretty much like my scissors, with like the blue, greens, and purples in it. And if this works, then I'm honestly probably gonna go back and get that and do another cover in that one because it was absolutely gorgeous. The downside is this was pretty expensive fabric. For 1 yard, which is 3 feet, it was $20. Now, I had a 50% off coupon, so I was able to use my 50% off coupon because it was not on sale, and I only got half a yard. So thinking that would be enough, I think it would, but when I was kind of playing around with measuring, it probably would be better to just go ahead and get a yard because the way that I'm planning to do this would work a lot better, but I'm fine with just working with what I got. So I actually got a half a yard for $5 because I used a 50% off coupon, and I only got half a yard, so it ended up being $10, and then I used my 50% off on that and got it for $5. So not bad for a DIY to kind of change up this cover when I paid, you know, $1.99. Overall, it should only be like, you know, a $10 project. I also got this sticky, or I want to say sticky tack. It's not sticky tack, it's tacky spray. I asked the person, you know, if there was an adhesive that would be good, so that way I don't have to sew. Obviously, if you can sew, then I would do that, but I don't know how to sew, and I also don't know how well you could sew, especially because these have been putting together, so I think it would be like really hard. Even with a machine, I don't think you can sew in this. So I was also thinking like maybe I have to staple it, I don't know, but I kind of just figured maybe an adhesive would work, so I got this one. There were a couple other ones. I made sure to choose permanent because I didn't want to get the ones that were removable and risk, you know, over time it would fall off a lot quicker. So I grabbed the one, there was 2 different types. There was that said removable on it, and then I ended up grabbing this one that is permanent. They also had a couple different options, like Gorilla Glue, that was a spray. I figured the spray would be a little bit easier and less likely to give me, you know, like the weird lumps that if I was just to use like the squeeze out glue, I feel like, and I would have to paint that, and then I would have to go get paintbrushes, and I was too lazy to go get paintbrushes. So I figured that spraying it would be the best bet, which it says it works on fabric and all of that good stuff. So hopefully that is the case, and hopefully we can figure this out. So I'm really excited for this video, you guys. Sorry, that was a really long intro, but that's basically all I'm using. I have my cover here, I have this tacky spray, I have my fabric, and then of course I have some scissors, and as of right now, that's all I plan on using. Obviously, we'll see once I think I am going to do this outside because it's spray, and I don't want to get it all over my desk, and it's supposed to smell gross, so I think doing it outside or in a well-vented area will be best anyway, but we're gonna just see. So first things first, I'm gonna measure out kind of what I'm thinking for this. So this is what I'm thinking. I already kind of like made a bunch of marks on here. I'm not good at measuring, so I don't like measuring, so sorry in advance. So I kind of made all these marks. They look crazy, I know, but this is my thought process. So here's the inside of the fabric. Here is my cover. I'm thinking because the inside, I had to remember there's an inside of this cover that's now green too, and I want to cover that up as best as I can. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect, and I'm not looking for perfect. I'm more concerned with the outside. So if you don't care about the outside or about the inside as much, maybe just focus on the outside, but I'm gonna attempt to figure out the inside for the sake of this video. So I kind of measured out here, and you can see I made these marks. So ideally, I would like to just be able to fold this in. One, because that will cover all of this stuff, and then I won't have the green peeping through. If I were to just cut the shape of this out, you know, and just paste it here, I wouldn't have anything lapping, and then we would have this green here anyway, and I think that would be a pain in the butt. So I'm figuring it'd be better to just pull, you know, the fabric, and then I can glue it here, and I would cut, because there is a pocket, I would cut a strip here. Okay, sorry, where my finger is, a strip, I'd cut that out, and then it would only glue on that one, and then this one would glue on this one, so I still have my pocket. I'm thinking I will end up losing my pen loop. I'm not honestly too worried about it. It's okay, I never use the pen loop anyway. And then I will have to cut over here, if you can see. I will have to cut this out, so I'll basically be cutting just like a little piece, and it'll probably just be a little notch. I don't want to cut all of it. Honestly, it'll probably be just enough for me to slip and slide this through, so maybe just like a little notch here, so I can slide this through. That way I can make sure I'm pulling this as tight as possible, and then it'll just go to those edges. If I want to be extra picky, I can do a little extra fabric, so that way I can tuck it in here, and that way it covers, you know, the inside of here. I don't know if I'm going to be that picky just yet. We might just have to see, but maybe I will, you know, account for a little bit extra so I can pull it, you know, all the way through and cover up that inside. So that's kind of my plan right now. And then at the bottom here, I'm going to wrap it, think like a present, right? So down here, I would have to cut here because I don't need it as long in this middle section and up here. And basically this would be folded, okay, like a present. Just pretend this is like a nice corner. It's not a nice quarter, but just pretend. And then that way I can pull this. So that way it's a nice kind of seamless. It won't be seamless. There'll be a little tiny bump there, but at least it kind of gets that, it gets this part taken care of, and then we won't see the green down there. And then I'll do the same exact thing. I'll cut out a little spot up here so I can fold it, and then that way when this part folds over, it covers that line. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. That's my plan. Yeah, that's my plan. That's where we're going with that. So I'm going to get this all cut out, and I'll just do the same thing over on the other side. So I'll make some cuts here in the fabric. That way I can save my pockets, right? So I'll cut here. That piece of fabric will go down on its own. I'll cut down here. That piece of fabric will go on its own. And then I'll cut here. And then again, I might leave a little bit extra so that way I can wrap it around here. That way I'm not worrying so much about, you know, seeing green. I'm trying to cover up as much green as possible. Now, the only thing I haven't really figured out is the best way to cover this up. I may have to do something along the lines of just cutting a piece of fabric and maybe even just wrapping it and gluing it like that. That might work. And then maybe just cutting out where this bracket is. I don't know, you guys. I gotta kind of figure it out, or I might leave it because it might kind of be fun to see how far we've come, you know. But that's my plan. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. I'm gonna go in and it's just gonna be a sped up video, but I'll come back when it is time to spray it and glue it. But let's go ahead and get this fabric cut out to what I need it to be. Okay, so I'm doing a little check-in because I did kind of get it all cut out, so it's gonna fit great. So far, we're looking good. I made sure to give myself lots of extra. I have lots of extras, so that way I can wrap on both sides. I'm just kind of trying to figure out, I could potentially do exactly what I did with this guy here, and I could cut out the pen loop. I'm not honestly super worried about it, and I'm kind of thinking maybe if anything, I'll just cut out the pen loop. That could always be something. I do have some Happy Planner pen loops that were sticky, so I could potentially take one of these and kind of just slap it in here and create a new pen loop if I really need to. But you could probably most likely do exactly just that. I would just need to figure out exactly where this cut needs to be on my fabric, so that way I could just push that pen loop through. Again, that pen loop would be green. You know, it just kind of depends. I'm still trying to figure it out. So far everything is looking good. I still have to make a couple more cuts, but for the most part, this will be like my present piece where I wrap it here, and then, you know, the other side will come along and we'll be able to kind of cover that up. So I probably will cut these just a little bit shorter. That way the overlap happens more on the inside of the cover rather than happening super close to the edge. But that way then I can have it maybe in the middle here and it won't bother me as much. But I'm thinking that will work. But this actually worked really well. Kind of just cover that strap. I do think I do need to be careful though to make sure that I don't rip this fabric. I think once it's all put together and glued, it will be better. So I'm thinking when I glue this, because this is something that when it closes and when it opens, it's going to kind of be, you know, a little bit different. I'm going to have to do one piece at a time. So that way I'm making sure I'm pulling it as tight as it will go as far as like opening it and closing it, because if I leave it too loose when I glue it, that means every time I open it I'm going to get this bunching, and I definitely don't want that. So that is just something that I'm going to have to keep in mind as I'm getting ready to glue this guy together. But I think it's overall going to be fine. I do have a little, I left a little bit at the top here, just that way I could try my best to get the glue to the very, very rim. On these parts, I am going to have the green peeking through, but I figured that was better than trying to wrap it and then having this random, you know, all of a sudden it changes. I'd rather, you know, have a little bit of green shining through. I think it'll make it look a little cute. And then I'll just worry about wrapping it on the immediate green parts. But so far, we're looking groovy. So this is my template, you guys. That's what I made as my template. I know that's super, some people are probably like, you should have measured. I do not like measuring. I used a measuring, like you could see, you see like how terrible I am drawing a line. I usually make it work. If you're good at measurements, then definitely measure. I am not good at measurements, but this worked out pretty well. I did make sure to just make sure I was giving myself plenty extra. Like I have all of this extra, so that way I can tuck this in, so that way I have that seamless look to it. So I'm trying to decide where I want to start for gluing. Should I start on the inside first, or should I do the back panel? The back panel will be the easiest. The front I will have to, I'm thinking after I put it together, I can just use my X-Acto knife to cut out the circle, because I can kind of just use it to go around, so that way I can get to my bracket. So I do kind of have to think of that, but I'm wondering if it'd be better here, because then I can pull it as tight here, and then that way I can continue to pull it where it needs to. So I think I might start with the inside cover on the right side and then do the back of the cover, and then we'll come back and do all of this. I am trying to figure out how I want to go about cutting this out. Originally when I did the lines, I was like, oh, I'll just cut it a little bit lower so that way, you know, it tucks in there. But then I remembered if I cut it lower, that means that this piece, you know, it messes up with that piece a little bit. So I'm gonna have to cut it straight across so that way it's like a seamless, each one, you know, covers. Otherwise I am gonna have some green peeking, which I will have some green up at the top, but I'm really not that worried about it. You know, this is cool enough for me, and I'm really excited that I'm gonna have a brand new shiny Holo cover. So then I'm going to go ahead and make those few final cuts, and we'll take this outside and I'll try getting the first pieces glued down and see what happens. Okay, so just finishing out all of the little cuts that I have, I did decide to go ahead and cut off the pen loop so that way I wasn't having to deal with it. I just used my X-Acto knife to kind of chip away at it. It did fray, but once it's covered, it won't really matter. So I just finished whatever cuts I needed that I had marked, and then I'm taking this outside. I'm using the tacky spray that I got. I pulled out just a cardboard that I had to stick on the cement. That way I don't accidentally glue my project to the cement. So this was definitely a trial and error process. Getting the first side on was the hardest thing, because when I first did it, I was like, oh yeah, it went on great, and then I flipped it over and it ended up being completely crooked to where it wouldn't have worked on the other side. So you could see I peeled it all off and pretty much had to start over. Thankfully this tacky spray allowed me to pull, like, it didn't set right away, so you have some work room with this in order to pull it off and mess around with it, and it didn't seem to really damage anything regardless. So I found sticking in the pen loop first and then kind of just pulling it where it needed to go helped a lot. Now here is something that I didn't start doing, which I will do in a little bit, but getting some wax paper is definitely a must. It helps me later. I thought of it later. It just kind of, I used it basically to cover the parts that I wasn't spraying, because here I'm getting spray all over, and so like on the inside, even on the polka dot part, I ended up getting spray on, which not a good thing. So I finally got the wax paper and realized like I should probably use that, and that helped a ton in avoiding getting the spray where I didn't want it to go. So just something to keep in mind. And I did keep the wax paper in there until it was dry, just because I didn't want the inside of that little pocket to stick to the other part of the cover. Pulling this over, tried my best to make sure it was nice and tight on the front, because I do have that little button there. I didn't spray the whole thing, and once I got it halfway down, I used my X-Acto knife and I just kind of like kept drawing an X over that button until I could pop that little button through the fabric, and that actually worked really well and was pretty easy. And then I was able to just spray the rest of the cover down after that, and I used a piece of wax paper to cover that little snap that was there. So just going in, I just made sure that I was pulling everything as tight as possible, because that would definitely affect, you know, the overall look. But once you got through this, it was pretty easy, and it was actually really simple. It was just, I had glue all over my hands, so that part just made it a little bit difficult. Note to self, wear gloves. But overall, this worked out a lot better than I thought it would. And again, that wax paper literally saved my life. It made it so much easier to get this done. Doing the inside flaps was the hardest, and definitely giving the glue some time to set and get a little tacky made it a lot easier to let go and stick. I kept being impatient with it. So definitely make sure when you spray it, let it sit for a little bit before you actually try to adhere it to whatever you were sticking it to. And then I ended up using my X-Acto knife to go through and cut off the last pieces, and then I did have to spray kind of like the edges of the cover again. So that's what you're seeing here, is I just had to spray those insides a little bit to make sure like the edges were sealed to the best of my capability without getting it all over the place. Okay, you guys, I am back. We did it. It's not perfect. It's definitely not perfect, but I did it. and I actually really love it. I know the Holo is super hard to see, but I absolutely love it. Now it's a fabric that won't get all scratched up. I will say I wish I had figured out something better with the edges, but I just didn't want to wrap it. And I felt like wrapping it would have been almost just as bad. But something to keep in mind that I should have done was I should have just went ahead and cut this with my scissors, so that way the cut was nice, because of my X-Acto knife kind of frayed it a little bit and didn't make it, you know, as perfect as I wanted. I think for now I'm going to go ahead and leave my snap as green. I actually kind of like that, and I just feel like it's going to be a super pain in the butt trying to cover this up, but just kind of cutting out the hole here worked really well. It still snaps just fine, but there you go, you guys. We did it. This was a long video, and right now I just have the wax paper in here because there's still like some sticky part and I don't want it to stick to itself. I will, once this is completely dry, I'm going to go in and wipe it down. There is some like adhesive because I didn't think of the wax paper until later, and I was like, I should have had that out to kind of cover up. So this kind of has some glue on it, so I'm hoping if I go in with like a washcloth and just kind of wipe this down and kind of get some of the stickiness. You could also see my nails just got destroyed, so note to self, next time wear some gloves. But you guys, it is possible. No, again, it's not perfect, but I absolutely love how it came out. I might try and think of a way to kind of make this edge look a little bit better. I don't think you can see it on camera as much as you can see it in person. It is it's definitely rough on the edges. But I am really excited. You know, it was a really fun project, and what I used a coupon on the sticky tack, so it was only $3 instead of, it was like $3.50. The fabric was $5. So let's just say like a solid like $11 for this project total, including buying this $1.99 cover. I think that is pretty dang good. I'm super happy. I didn't pull this as tight as I wanted. It looks like it's tight when it's closed, but when I open it, it is kind of gaping just a little bit because I didn't pull it tight enough. I kind of struggled with that, and making sure I wasn't like blocking the camera. I should have just got in there, but it's okay. Now I know. I do have some fabric left over, so I might do this again and maybe see if I can figure out a better way to cover the edges, because I do have another green cover. I also have a yellow one that I might, and the yellow one has stripes in it, so it would look more like the original holographic color. Or not color, cover. But you guys, this was just a fun little project. Thanks for sticking with me and watching it. If you have these covers, again, this was super fun. This was a really thick fabric as well, so it's really actually easy to work with. Once I got, you know, the back part of it down, after that it was a lot easier to like tug and pull. It was just getting the first part down and making sure the rest of it was straight, because the first time I put it down, it was completely crooked, and I was like, oh, so you kind of had to mess with it. Luckily, this was a tack that, you know, I could peel it off. Obviously, if I tried to peel this off now, it'd probably be really hard. But I am probably going to go back and get that mermaid, the mermaid kind that I saw, and maybe see if I can do something with that one. I think that one would be really fun to experiment with as well. But you guys, that is it. Just a fun little DIY. If you want to change up your covers, if somebody has a cool way or a better way that I could cover this green up with that fabric, that would be great. I don't sew at all whatsoever, so I can't, like, if you could sew, you could probably like maybe sew like a little thing that you could just like throw around it. I don't sew, so I can't do that. So that's something I gotta figure out. But if you have an idea of how to cover this up that might be simple, please let me know, because I would love to know. But you guys, that is it for this little DIY cover. I so hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I hope I'll see you in my next one. Bye!